Welcome back here on the Bleav YouTube channel. Joe Deleone reporting from the NFL Combine. And there's been a lot of discussions about Abdul Carter and his injury history. And here to help us talk about it, Dr. David Chao, who has always provided us with such amazing coverage regarding injuries. Dr. Chao, we got to jump in and talk about Abdul Carter because he's been such a driving force of talking points just among everybody here. He had a shoulder injury in college in his final games. He ends up coming up this week that he's got an issue with his foot. Do you think that there actually should be any concern and that anybody trying to make this case that he's going to slide? Do you think any of that's real?
Well, I mean, it's going to sound funny, but it depends. And let's talk about what we know. And obviously, as you can see, this is not a virtual background. I am not in Indianapolis. You are in one of the Indianapolis hotel rooms there. And I guess my first question to you is, how's the cocktail sauce at St. Elmo's? Did you do that yet or no?
I'm going on Saturday. I'm going on Saturday, so
Oh,
we're
saving
gonna
the
we're gonna
best.
be able to get that.
We used to bring when the teams would go. I've been to 20 plus combines,
Mm,
and then you add in rechecks. That's another close to 20. And between games, preseason, I've been to Indy 50 plus times. It's like my second home out there over time. And no, I haven't gone in a while now, but some changes. Indy's built up, and even
mm,
some medical process changes. But the number one thing here is what we deal with, as you know, is insider knowledge from the process of medicals and having evaluated athletes. We don't deal with insider information,
right.
leaks, et cetera. Obviously, insider information is not good according to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Insider knowledge is good, insider information, no good. We try and deal with insider knowledge. So what we know about Abdul Carter, there's the shoulder issue, which seems to be the lesser concern. The bigger concern seems to be the foot, the quote stress reaction. And a lot has been put out there by the big boys, reporters, Schefter, et cetera, and coming from the agent itself, Drew Rosenhaus. But the number one thing you have to consider is the source. Who's saying it? You don't have team doctors coming out and saying Abdul Carter has X, Y, and Z. So you have to filter the
Yes.
source. This is Drew Rosenhaus, who I respect, but he's got a job to do, and his job is to make his player look good, right? That's why he's hired as the agent. So my number one question is, if he doesn't have symptoms and he doesn't need surgery, how was it discovered? We don't x-ray, MRI, or do bone scans on players head to toe at the combines unless there's a previous history or current symptoms or a physical finding. So my first question is, how was it discovered? Why were there additional imaging? And if indeed there were some symptoms, then the question then is this a stress reaction, a budding stress fracture, or is it a stress fracture that they're calling a stress reaction? Look, these are tricky. I assume it's fifth metatarsal. That's the most common. They happen a lot on wide receivers,
Mm,
corners, uh, running backs, and edge rushers. Anyone who needs to get around edges, make sharp cuts, that's Abdul Carter. Once it happens, A, it doesn't go away quickly. B, often surgery is needed. If it's a true stress reaction, perhaps surgery isn't needed now. If it is an early stress fracture, surgery is your best option. But let me tell you, there are plenty of examples of not healing in 8 weeks. Julian Edelman had a reoperation. Julio Jones had a reoperation. Um, Derwin James had a stress fracture at combine that was treated already, who later on in his career, the Chargers had a reoperation. So there, because the stress reaction, stress fracture happens because of an area of poor blood flow, it's not always straightforward. Oh, 8 weeks were good. And so with that in mind, look, I hope the young man's doing the right thing. It would not surprise me if he's supposed to work out at his pro day.
yeah.
Look, it would not surprise me even after his pro day or after he was drafted, a team says, let's just get that fixed and put it behind us, right? The sooner you get it fixed, the better chance it's behind you. And, I'm sure his agent is making the right decision for him. But sometimes I'm like, maybe you should just rely on your game film, not worry about a pro day, get fixed. Doctors are smart enough to know they're like, get fixed now, come to the recheck, show early healing, and put the issue behind you that way rather than look, is his draft stock going to really raise that much with a workout at pro day? It's pretty high already, isn't it? I mean, I think you're just trying to make his
Yeah.
draft stock not fall because of this. So I'm sure his agent, everyone's doing the right thing, but those are some early questions and concern. Once again, from the mindset of a team physician, what I would tell the team, look, if he went and said, I'm getting this fixed, I would tell my team, good. You get a jump on things, gives you a better chance to be ready for training camp.
Mhm.
Absolutely ready for training camp. Let's just see him at rechecks right before the draft and assure the process is get a jump start on the healing. I wouldn't downgrade him any at all, assuming everything was smooth. Now, depending on what the imaging shows, there might be a discussion because if you get the surgery done later, a couple months from now, if things aren't completely smooth, I mean, July is around the corner for training camp. And so we'll see. I mean, I don't mean to grab the mic and go soliloquy, but there's a whole process here, and
Right.
happy for you to ask questions and talk about it.
Yeah, the deal with Abdul Carter and getting to hear that the context of understanding of like what the timetable is for his recovery is I think is important and also misunderstood by the general public of like knowing the severity of something like this. I think like the one thing that's been really interesting though is and this happens every year at the combine. One guy, some type of an injury history gets brought up, and there's the driving narrative by people that work for teams that try to push to the people that they know that work in the media that they're close with to kind of push the narrative of like, yeah, we're not we're debating not taking him. I it sounds like from what you're talking about though that this injury it doesn't does it is it something that like could be recurring? Is it something that could lead to in a long career that could be something that pops up or is it like a signal that he could have future issues? It doesn't sound like that's the case. So is this
Well,
something that's just being made up to be a fake red flag?
well, let's talk about fake red flags. I mean, you know, uh, what do some reporters say? How do you know someone's lying during combines or pre-draft? That their lips are moving, right? And you never know what the spin is. I mean, there's all sorts of things. I'll give you a fun anecdote of a spin. So we would know when I was with the Chargers, the 50 or 60 guys that we really had a close eye on. We called them dotted players. Of course, we'd examine all 330, but pay closer attention. One year, there was a huge impetus push that the Chargers were going to draft a running back. And I won't say who, I'm not trying to embarrass the kid. We brought that kid in for a visit, one of our visits to San Diego. And it was reported that came in for a visit and so forth. And I didn't even see him again for a physical. A lot of times I do, but he apparently didn't have anything new. And I ended up going later on that evening and having dinner at the old restaurant Seo's. Our buddy Junior Seo had a sports
Mhm.
bar restaurant. And there I saw our running backs coach. He was supposed to be a first round draft pick. I saw our running backs coach having dinner. So I went and said hello to him. He introduced me to this potential first round draft pick, and he was having a burger at Seo's. Do you think we were really drafting him? I mean, if he really was a first round draft pick, where's the OC? Where's the head coach?
Right.
Where's the owner?
Right.
That was just for show to, play the game. So I'm not being critical of any GM or team. I'm just saying what you hear is not
Play the
always
game.
real. Okay. It's
Right.
just not always real. Okay.
Right.
And so what we try to analyze from an injury perspective. So a couple years ago, we said Tyree Wilson was supposed to be the top pick of the draft defensively. This was after Bryce Young, CJ Stroud.
Yep.
And We said if Will Anderson is graded at or the same as Tyree Wilson in terms of talent, you should clearly take Will Anderson, and Will Anderson will be the first one off the board because of Tyree Wilson's foot issues. Assuming that they're same level of talent, and I don't grade talent. And obviously, Will Anderson was selected at number 3 to Houston. He's won Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's a top player in the league. And Tyree Wilson's been
Yeah.
due to the foot. So you're right. Every year there are nuggets. Every year out of the 330 players, probably 300 have very little, if any, concern. There's probably 30 that have some concern. That not to say they're not draftable, can't play football. And every year there's this, guy that needs more heart tests. Oh, he can't run. He can't work out at combines, and there's a big hubbub about it. But many times those clear later. Every other year, there's an unfortunate kid that tears his pec in the bench press,
Mm.
trying to explode out the bench press.
I
Every
literally did that when I was playing in college. That's not a fun experience just to randomly throw that out.
at combines or no?
No, it
Uh,
was my junior year going into my senior year, and it was on we had our testing day at the end of training, winter training. It was like, how much can you get up? So I threw 275 on, and I tore the tendon right off my pec. So like I know that like it's a dangerous experience trying
well,
to
these
go
guys are
crazy
trying
with
to
the bench.
impress. They're doing max,
Right.
reps and the whole deal. So that happens, and every other year or so, there's an unfortunate Achilles rupture or ACL tear or so at combines when you're doing these high speed drills. So hopefully none of this happens this year. We're getting an early leak on the information of Abdul Carter. Let's decipher what it means, and there's more to come. And sometimes, look. I commented on Twitter or X yesterday. There were a few people that said they're not working out because they have a hamstring soreness or hamstring strain. We used to, when I was doing the medical exam, I would instruct our fellows and our associate doctors that went say, when he has, always ask, are they running? Are they lifting? And if they're not running, why? And if they say it's a hamstring or mild, ask them, is it an agent hamstring or is it a real hamstring?
Uh,
Sometimes it's just a convenient mechanism to say, I just want to
right.
work out at my pro day. I don't want to do this in India, and that's their prerogative. But a convenient way of doing is my hamstring's sore. I don't want to do that. And there were a number of kids that would say, kind of wryly smile or, wink and a nod. And, that's what I was told I was supposed to say, hamstring. They didn't say no to the agent hamstring
Right.
question, and my point of that is if you really do have a hamstring, if it really is an agent hamstring and you're choosing not to work out, I don't want to order an MRI or further testing on it. Just say, let's just let it be. It's okay. Remember, all these kids do have game film, right? So they can rely on
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. Folks, that's going to do it from us with this fantastic insight into
I'm going to add one
expectations.
thing, Joe, just for
Yeah,
you,
yeah. Go
just so
ahead.
people, a basic misconception. People think that everyone's medical evaluation is exactly the same.
Mm,
Not true. This is why all 32 teams go and send multiple doctors and their own medical staffs. Look, what if when Cam Ward is working out or Shador Sanders, are the GMs and head coaches of the quarterback needy teams at the top of the draft going to all go? Of course they are. Why don't they just Zoom the pro day from afar? Why don't they just take the consensus evaluations? Because it's subjective
mm,
and there are shades of gray. Same with medical. Look, if Cam Ward or Shador Sanders can't throw the ball 40 yards, they're clearly not drafted in the first round. But it's the subtleties of their throwing motion, their footwork, or their game and the mentality that make a difference. Same in medicine. There are some clear failures, but a lot of it is the subtleties, etc. Even on Abdul Carter, which is reported as right foot, there's a higher chance of left foot issues, and he does play in the left defensive side. Those are some of the subtleties
right.
that you have to consider. So it's not black and white, the combines and medical, it's shades of gray, and you factor that into the big picture. Rarely do we fail a guy. I often meet with the GM afterwards and they'd say, well, what do you think? Did he pass or fail? Well, he passes, but this guy's a high grade. Well, would you draft him? Depends. What round and what are your other choices? That's why you get the big money. If you're telling me here are two linebackers and they're rated the same, okay, this linebacker's health, edge rusher's health there's another linebacker who's equal to Abdul Carter in talent evaluation. Yeah, I might say take the other one to
Mm.
avoid losing time on the stress fracture on the other foot. But if he's the better guy and can you draft him in the first pick of the draft, I'd say yes. It's based on talent evaluation. And so I always say medical is like one aspect of the combine. It's like a 40 time. If you, as a GM, say, this kid's got game speed, I'm not worried about his 40,
Mm.
okay. I mean, it's all relative as part of the big picture. And on our draft board, we used to have red dots and yellow dots. Green is we have zero concern. Yellow is a mild concern. Red is stop and think. And there were occasionally a black dot, which is you just cannot draft him. But the most of them were more red, if the ones of concern. I mean, if they fall to the right spot, you can draft them, right? It's just there's question marks.
And to that point, and I think in this class, there is a separation between Carter and some of these other edge guys that don't have injury concerns. So I think with all this information, I think the real takeaway is that, and I Bleav that the NFL agrees with that statement that Carter is in a separate category. That even if there is some worry over the foot, he still should be the first defensive player taken, could still be the first overall pick. We'll find out more, and I'm intrigued to learn more as this process continues. If anything more information comes out, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot more that comes out with some more of these prospects as well.
Sounds good. Enjoy the fresh horseradish in your cocktail sauce.
Of course, of course. I'm more than excited, and Dr. Chow, it's always great to catch up with you. Please, everybody, go follow at SIC Score on Twitter, at Pro Football Doc on Twitter. Check out Sports Injury Central. Again, appreciate it as always. And I'm sure that we'll get to catch up soon. We'll see what happens throughout the rest of the combine.
Thanks, Joe.